Welcome, class, to Archetype. In this series of classes, I'll be going over different archetypes in the game, from key cards, some tech cards, and showing gameplay that highlights what I'm going over. Now, before I begin, if you liked the video and want to see more, hit the bell for notifications and hit the like button as well. Both really help me out. Also, if you want to see me live, then hit the link below for my Twitch link and for my Discord link as well. Now, let's get the class started. Now, before I go into the gameplay, let's talk about actually the key cards of Cyber Angels. What are that, you might be asking? Well, first of all, is going to be the boss monsters. Boss monsters are going to be the Kini and Azana. Right now, we'll talk about the Kini first. So, Takini is going to be the boss monster you're going to go into about 80% of the time. The reason for this is because of her effect. If this card is ritual summoned, you can make your opponent send one monster they control to the graveyard. Their choice. Now, that might not seem all that great at first, but what this does is makes it so your opponent is going to send one of their own cards. Doesn't matter what it is. Send. Now, a lot of the cards in the game are of the mindset of, oh, if I am destroyed, then I can activate an effect, or, oh, if I'm flipped face up, I'll activate an effect. But sending a card to the grave normally doesn't happen. A lot of the time, there's not that many cards in the game that have that clause in it. So because of this, you can go and make your opponent lose out on their chance to activate certain effects, and also go and have any type of defense against you taking your opponent out. Now, the other effect of Takini is being able to bring resources from the field back to the hand. Or I should say, grave back to the hand. Now, a good example of this is maybe your opponent, or not your opponent, but yourself, is wanting some resources back for your next turn. Takini will give you that ability to get resources back. Now, as you probably noticed in the deck list that is up, you'll see that she's got a 2. That's because she's limited to, because of how strong she is. So because of this, you can't go and use her with other cards that are limited to. So normally you're running her at a 1 of in your deck. Now let's talk about the next boss monster, Azana. Azana is also considered a boss monster because of kind of similar effect to the Kini, but hers is for the back row. So when you ritual summon her, you're going to go and be able to force your opponent to send one spell or trap that they have and send it into the grave. So if they only have, like, say, one back row, they have nothing to defend themselves with. Now, if your opponent has any other type of back row, then they have to choose which one is less important to themselves. This can very much limit your opponent from being able to stop you from doing different plays. Also, Azana has the effect of, if any of your cards are, or at least your ritual monsters, are targeted by an effect your opponent has, you can go and actually send one of your ritual monsters in your grave back into your deck and then destroy a card that your opponent has. Now, what this means is that, say your opponent activates a monster effect and was going to go and destroy one of your monsters or one of your back row. Okay, Azana activates, boom. You now are able to then go and make them go minus, giving you a leg up against whatever your opponent was trying to do. Now, it's not always great because you have to have a ritual monster in your grave to activate the effect. But you do what you must. Now then, let's go and cover the next couple ritual monsters for this archetype. Now, first one is going to be Ben 10. Ben 10 is one of your main cards in the deck as well, due to the fact that she is a searcher. Now, why is she considered a searcher? Because when she is tributed, you're sending her from, if you tribute her in any way, boom, she activates her effect in the grave. You are now going to go and search your deck for any light fairy monster in your deck to your hand. This is huge because you can combo her with any of your other ritual monsters that you're ritual summoning to then go and gain back resources and go into even further plays. And her partner in crime, Eodin, is exactly who you're going to go into as well. Now, Eodin is also a searcher in the fact that when she is ritual summoned, she is searching for any of your ritual spells. So when she is ritual summoned, boom, you're grabbing a ritual spell from your grave or deck to your hand to then go into your next ritual summon. Now, I'm coining the phrase of ritual climbing because your main objective is to go from the level 6s into the level 8s to then go and deal with your opponent in some way. Also to note that Benton here, if she is summoned out to the field and she destroys a monster by battle, she's going to do damage to your opponent by taking the opponent's monster's defense and doing damage to your opponent. So say your opponent in one video we will be watching, or one replay, I was able to use this to go and basically force my opponent to commit seppuku, or in other words, suicide, to go and make it so I win, because he had no further plays. Now, Ian also has a second effect, just like Benton. Her effect is she can go and, when she's tributed, make all your other ritual monsters gain 1,000 attack and defense. This is huge because it makes it so your boss monsters go from 27 or 25 up to 37 or 35. This is very big because a lot of other archetypes will go and be able to pull off very high attack monsters if you're not careful. Next up is Petite Angel. Now, Petite Angel here is actually considered your other searcher. This gives you 3 searchers in this archetype. Now, Petite Angel will search your deck for any of your ritual monsters, or she's going to search out for your Machine Angel ritual, which we will cover here in momentarily. Because of this, you're going to go and be using her to also ritual climb into the level 8 boss monsters. She is crucial to the deck because of the fact that she can go and help you get into your further plays, and she's also searchable by Benton's effect. So definitely a 2 of. Now, next up, we're going to go and cover the ritual spells. First up is Machine Angel Ritual. This is your main way to ritual summon all of your ritual monsters in this deck, or period for this archetype, because of the fact that this card here, you don't have to worry about being equal. It just needs equal to or more to get into your ritual, and then you're good. But the second effect is why you want this card in your deck. You don't want to not go into a duel without it. Is because when it's in the graveyard, if one of your light monsters on the field would be destroyed by an opponent's card effect, you can go and banish it to then make it so that card will not be destroyed. And also, you can banish it for if your opponent is going to go and destroy your monster by battle as well. So it works as double protection in that sense. So definitely a one of in the deck. The reason you're not running more is because this card is also limited to. So you can only have one Dakini and one Machine Angel Ritual. Next, we have Machine Angel Absolute Ritual. Now, this one here is your secondary ritual, but because the first one is limited to 2, and you can only have one in the deck, you're using this one more than anything. Now, this one here is also a stable for the deck, because it's another ritual spell, so you can go into your other rituals with no problems. But the other thing about it is the fact that you can go and use your ritual monsters in your grave, or any of your fairy or warrior monsters that you have in your grave as well, to go into your ritual monsters that you have in your hand. And those monsters that are in the grave go back into your deck, giving you resources back, giving you recycling ability. So that's why this card is so important to the deck. It makes it so you are continuously getting your resources back as long as you have the ability to get this ritual back into your hand over and over and over again. And then we have the final key card in the archetype, Merciful Machine Angel. Now this card here is considered a pot of greed for your archetype. Now, if you don't know what pot of greed does, all it does is when you activate it, you draw 2 cards from your deck. That's as simple as possible. That's what this does. It lets you draw 2 cards from your deck. Now, the caveat is you have to tribute 1 Saber Angel ritual monster from your hand or field, then draw 2 cards. Then you're placing 1 back into the deck, 1 card from your hand back into the deck, and then you won't be able to special summon anything but ritual monsters for the rest of this turn. Now, this isn't really that not being able to ritual special summon besides rituals isn't really that bad, because that's all you're doing is ritual summon. Now, this card here, if you combo it with Ben 10, it does not actually lose you a card. It actually will be fine because of Ben 10's effect of when tributed will let you search. This here with Ben 10 makes it so you really are not going minus or anything at all. So that's why you really should be running Merciful Machine Angel in your deck to give you not only the ability to search, but also to give you a draw, to help you draw into your deck more often. Now, before I go into the highlights and everything else of this deck in action, I do want to go and give a little bit of information on, is this deck worthwhile to go into or is it not? Now, if you are a free-to-play person, like somebody that doesn't want to put money into the game, this deck is actually really good because for most of the deck, it is free-to-play. So Ben 10, Dakini, Petite Angel, Eodin, and also the 2 rituals, all of them are able to be getting at the gate for Alexis or Alexis's rank up or level ups. On top of the fact that all the other cards that you would need, like getting more than just one of Eden, is going to be our ticket. To get Azana, you need a UR ticket. And to get Machine uh, Merciful Machine Angel is an SR ticket. Now, those are certain tickets you need to get those cards, but otherwise, you're perfectly fine, and you don't have to really put any money into this archetype. All you are doing is grinding at the game, which you're going to be doing anyway. Now, if I had to rate this deck on is it competitive, is it not competitive, sadly, it is no longer a competitive deck. It is not a deck that you are going to go and get um, top tops in any major tournaments. Now, if there's any type of tournament going on where it's just for fun, sure, run it, have some fun, and have a good time. Now then, there is a couple different techs that you could be running. One of them is known as the Djinns. They are another archetype that deals with helping rituals. What they do is, if they are in the grave, you can use them to go into a ritual from the grave instead of being on the field or in the hand. And when they're used in a ritual summon, they give the ritual monster an extra effect. Some of them make it so that unaffected by traps, unaffected by spells. When they destroy a monster, draw a card. When they go and another one is to also make it so you are cannot be targeted by spells and traps or anything at all from your opponent, as just examples. And then another two cards to keep in mind is Sonic Bird and Sanju of 1,000 Hands. These two cards are also search cards. Sonic Bird makes it so you can go and draw or search your deck for any ritual spell that you might have in the deck. And Sanju of 1,000 Hands lets you search out for any ritual that you have in the deck at that time. So those are some other cards to keep in mind for your deck. Though Sonic Bird and Sanju are more pay to win tech cards, where the Djinns, two of the cards for them are SRs from tickets, so you can get them for pretty cheap and use them while you're trying to get better tech cards for your deck. Now, without further ado, let's go and talk about the highlights. Alright, this first one here is going to be dealing with Noble Knights. Now, as I said, this is just highlights. These highlights are showing you the deck lists or what the archetype does in action. It is not meant to reflect what deck list I actually have up. Now, in this replay, we actually go and get the main combo off, and then also was able to OTK on top of it. Now we're going to activate Merciful Machine Angel Ritual. Now we draw two cards and summon out Petite, who is going to search for Ben 10. Now we're going to go and actually ritual summon into Eden giving us another search, actually two searches, one for ritual spell and one for a ritual monster from the deck, which we grab a Eodin, and we also grab the main ritual so we can have a protection in case our opponent decides, hey, I want to go and have a hand trap for some reason. And because we ritual summoned using Eodin, we are gaining an extra 1,000 attack. And because of Dakini's effect, we are sending our opponent's Xyz monster to the grave. They still get the effect off to bring out another ritual monster, but doesn't matter because we have piercing as well. Did I forget to mention the Dakini gives all ritual monsters you have on the field piercing? And if you don't know what piercing is, it makes it so you can go and cause damage to your opponent even if they're in defense. Even kind of like if you attack them if they're in attack position. Next up is going to be against Thunder Dragons. Now, this is an example of you deciding to use Ben 10 to kind of mess with your opponent. Now, one thing I did not mention is this archetype is a bit more aggro or aggressive and wants to OTK. They don't like to go like second or first and be on the defensive. One of the final replays will show this, but it won't be too bad. Now, Thunder Dragons are doing what Thunder Dragons do. They are going to go Xyz into any other plays and set themselves up for the next turn. Now, I have no way to go into anything else, so I decided to go into Ben 10. Ben 10 now is a 28 beat stick with the ability to burn my opponent, causing my opponent severe damage. And because we're using Master of Rites 2, we're unaffected by, or we cannot be targeted by our opponent's monster's effects, severely limiting our opponent from actually being able to do anything. And that's our opponent deciding, okay, I have no other plays, I will just run into you and end it myself. Next up is going to be another Noble Knight. Now this one here is going to showcase the combo, the main way you're going to go into a boss monster every time if you can help it. So this here again is us going first, which isn't really what you want to be when you are using rituals, or at least Cyber Angels, but if anything else, you can go and set up a defense. Now, at the time, I really had no other plays, and I didn't want to lose out on my opponent having the ability to go into anything and killing off Azana, so I decided to wait. Now, my opponent did not play smart in this scenario, which came back and actually helped us out, so it is what it is. They pop Petite. We are now going to be able to go and just start our ritual summoning, sending Benton away. This gives us two searches. It's going to activate Eden and Benton's searches, which is fine, exactly what we want. Now we grab another Petite so we can go and do another search. Petite is now searching for Dakini. Now, because we have both types of rituals, we can actually get both Dakini in Azana out. I bring out Dakini first. My opponent sends away the other. And then we go into Azana. Azana is going to force my opponent to send one of the back row away. And it's going to make it so both my monsters are now above 3,000 attack. Now, I grab the protection, put it back in my hand. Now my opponent is going to go and pop my back. The only protection I have on the board against anything my opponent was going to try and do, I activate Azana's effect, sending one of my rituals back into the deck so I can go and pop their monster, and now I go for game. This was here more of control, trying to keep my opponent from being able to do anything by denying any of their plays. Alright, this next one here is going to go and also show the combo of going into the ritual again, just to really hammer it home. Especially seeing how we have Merciful Machine Angel. This is going to show you exactly what I was talking about by using the Merciful Machine Angel with Ben 10. I drew 2 cards, I put a card back in the deck, and then I grabbed another ritual to just go and pop off, in a sense, to go into what I wanted. We now go into Azana. Azana is now on the board. And now we have a Azana who is 3,600. We have Cosmic, which is going to pop back row. And Azana can now go, if she gets targeted, I can go and put any of my ritual cards back into my deck to then go and pop one of my opponent's cards. Now this here was more of a game of attraction. I had to play smart, because if I didn't, my opponent was going to be able to go and just run me over. It's probably one of the good things of Cyber Angels is the fact that you can go and, if you have to, you can try playing the long game. You don't want to, but you can if you're careful. As this replay will show. And because Azana has the ability of, if she destroys a monster, she can attack a second time in a row, we go for that instead of just waiting for our opponent to do anything. Letting us attack and go for game with no problems. With that all said and done, if I had to go and give a grade to this archetype on its abilities to actually take on things that are going on in the meta, which change every couple months, It's hard to say where I would really grade this archetype full on, besides the fact that we don't actually have all of its support yet. We are still missing two of the ritual monsters and actually one more spell for this archetype. But as it stands right now, this archetype is going to be a C minus. The reason I'm saying a C minus is because of the fact that it can OTK, it can go and put up a good fight against most decks. The problem is it doesn't have a lot of protection. It can be stopped by negates very easily, and also if you open up a certain way, you are going to brick and not be able to stop anything your opponent is going to do. With that said, though, it is a very friendly, like I said, free to play deck. You can pick it up very easily and kind of just have some fun with it, especially if you're more into the aggressive deck builds. You are a person that doesn't want to take like an half hour to play one duel. You want to be in and out. With that being said, though, uh, I want to thank everybody that has watched this video up to this point so much. I plan to continue making these videos. But without further ado, class dismissed.